Does the White House think that the idea of the president taking a cognition test, a cognitive test, as a part of this physical is a legitimate idea, particularly just on the heels of the special counsel report, more polling, as my colleague Selena just mentioned, showing that many American people have concerns about that?
Look, I got this question last week as well, and I'm just going to say what Dr. O'Connor, it's kind of what he said to me about a year ago when the report came out last year, obviously on his physical, which is the president proves every day how he operates, how he thinks, right? But by dealing with world leaders, by making really difficult decisions on behalf of the American people, whether it's domestic, whether it's national security. And so he shows it every day on how he thinks, how he operates. And so that is how Dr. O'Connor sees it, and that's how I'm going to leave it.
What do you think about the idea of taking that kind of a test?
I believe, for me, you're asking me my personal opinion, he is sharp. He is on top of things. When we have meetings with him, with his staff, he's constantly pushing us, trying to get more information. And so that has been my experience with this president. Anything else outside of that, I just shared with you what Dr. O'Connor said to me, and so I'll just leave it there.
That is your judgment. That is your judgment. That is not the judgment of the press.
They expressed concerns about your mental acuity. They say that you are too old. Mr. President,
Sunday morning talk shows in the US were full of conversations around whether Joe Biden should step down over his failing memory. The president's chaotic press conference, trying to counter a special prosecutor's damning description of his mental capacity, has now made this once sensitive topic a mainstream talking point. Our Washington correspondent Annalise Nielsen explains.
President Joe Biden wants to move on from the special prosecutor's report into his handling of classified documents. But his explosive press conference last week has now put doubts over his age at the center of his re-election campaign.
That is your judgment.
I think one of the things that you do have to recognize about President Biden's age is the flip side of this coin is that he has a tremendous amount of wisdom and experience.
It was the talk of all the Sunday morning politics shows.
When you're questioning what 70-some% of the American people are already questioning, whether Joe Biden is too old for the job, and now you have an independent counsel, a special counsel, appointed by his own Justice Department, concluding that he couldn't bring a trial for that reason, that's much more damaging politically than whether people would have agreed or disagreed with him being charged.
The topic of Biden's mental fitness was chided by many in the media as insensitive and disrespectful. But because of this report, it's now gone mainstream.
Look, I'm a Biden supporter. I slept like a baby last night. I woke up every 2 hours crying and went to bed. This is terrible for Democrats, and anybody with a functioning brain knows that.
You know, they have their older guy, we have our old guy, and we have, gaffes, and they have their gaffes, and they have their files, and we have, our files.
Biden is not going to be charged. He said that's up to them. Look, if he's not going to be charged, that's up to them. But then I should not be charged. This is nothing more than selective persecution of Biden's political opponent, me. And I don't know that it's Biden, because I don't think he knows he's alive.
Nikki Haley, the only remaining challenger against Donald Trump, had her own take on the classified document scandal now plaguing both Joe Biden and Donald Trump.
That's sheer arrogance of Joe Biden and Donald Trump to think that they can put our security in danger just so that they can have a bragging point.
Donald Trump is still leading Nikki Haley in polling for the primaries, including in her home state of South Carolina, where he made this provocative statement about walking away from NATO if he's elected.
So I said, you didn't pay, you're delinquent, He said, yes, let's say that happened. No, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want. You got to pay. You got to pay your bills.
Views like this play well with the Republican voters that participate in primary races that select their candidates. Surveys like this one show that Republican voters are unhappy with the funding going towards Ukraine. More than 2/3 say it's too much. Trump supporters say it's all a bit of bluster.
And that's not how I view that statement. I mean, he was talking about a story that he talked about happened in the past. By the way, Donald Trump was president, and he didn't pull us out of NATO. You know, in fact, American troops were stationed throughout Europe, as they are today. They were then as well.
It should theoretically be too late for anyone to enter the race to become a presidential candidate. But if Joe Biden does step aside, it will reshape the entire race, not just for Democrats, but for Republicans too. Annalise Nielsen, Sky News, Washington, D.C.